You ever been in one of those arguments? You know the one. You're laying out perfect logic, rock solid evidence, and the other person just doesn't budge. Their belief is completely unchanged. It's so frustrating, right? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the architecture of our own minds to figure out why that happens. And this is really the central mystery we're tackling. Why do some of our deepest convictions feel like they're set in concrete? We've all seen it in other people, and if we're being honest, we've probably all felt it in ourselves. It's this powerful force that just seems to fly in the face of all reason. And that's the part that's so wild, isn't it? It's not like there's a lack of information. You can show someone study after study, fact after fact, and nothing. The belief just stands there, totally unshaken. It's almost like the facts bounce right off. So, to get to the bottom of this, we need a totally new way of looking at what beliefs even are. And this new way of thinking comes from a really fascinating framework that uses a powerful analogy. It basically says, hey, what if we stop thinking about beliefs as these little isolated ideas and start thinking about them more like personality traits? This is the big question that kicks the whole thing off. Now, hysteresis is a fancy science word, but all it really means is stickiness, a resistance to change. The idea here is that once a belief gets locked in, it doesn't just vanish when a new fact comes along. Kind of like how being an introvert is a core part of you, not something you just decide to switch off. The theory behind this is called the CRET framework. And what it proposes is that a belief system is a macro constraint. Okay, so what does that mean? Just think of it like this. Your personality kind of guides your general behavior, right? Well, your belief system is like the operating system for your mind. It guides how you interpret absolutely everything. To really get our heads around this, the theory breaks it all down into 3 different layers. So let's build this thing from the ground up and see how this architecture actually gets put together inside our heads. So everything, and I mean everything, starts right here, at the micro level. These are the random little sparks of life. A powerful story a friend tells you, an emotional experience you have, a random comment from a teacher, something you see online. Just think of these as tiny little data points. They're the raw materials for what's to come. Okay, so those little sparks don't just float around by themselves. At this middle level, the meso level, our brain starts to play connect the dots. An experience gets linked to a memory, that memory gets linked to an idea. Suddenly you've got this whole web of associations starting to form, pulling individual thoughts into related clusters. And all that connecting activity leads us to the top floor, the macro level, which the theory represents with the Greek letter lambda. When enough of those connections link up, something really powerful emerges, a stable, coherent worldview. And this isn't just a pile of ideas anymore. Oh no, this is now a powerful lens that actively filters and shapes all the new information that comes your way. All right, so we've got the 3 layers. But how does a tiny, random spark at the very bottom become this massive, rigid worldview at the top? Well, this is where the dynamics of the whole system get really, really cool. It happens through something called upward amplification. So imagine a micro event happens, say you have one bad experience with a particular type of dog. If that one experience resonates with some other things you might have heard, it doesn't just get stored as one piece of data, it gets amplified. It strengthens that whole little network of ideas, pushing it upward until, boom, that dog breed is dangerous, becomes a solid part of your macro-level worldview. Now, this is what's so critical to understand. Look at the direction of the arrows. When a belief is just forming, the influence is bottom-up. Little micro-events are building the big macro worldview. But, and this is the game changer, once that worldview, that lambda, gets locked into place, the arrow flips. Now it's a top-down system. The worldview itself starts controlling how you see every single new micro-event that comes your way. And this brings us right back to that word hysteresis, that stickiness. This powerful top-down control is what makes beliefs so hard to change. That macro-level worldview is now a self-sustaining system. Its number one job is to protect itself, to maintain its own consistency. And it does that by twisting or ignoring any evidence that doesn't fit. So let's tie this all back to that original problem. Why doesn't that mountain of evidence work? The CRET framework gives us a startlingly clear answer. I mean, what kind of real-world stuff can we actually understand better with this new lens? Well, it turns out this framework neatly explains a whole bunch of well-known psychological biases and experiences we all have. This just shows you how powerful the model is. Confirmation bias? That's just the top-down filter in action. Your macro worldview, your lambda, actively screening incoming info to protect itself. What about those sudden, dramatic, religious, or political conversions? The theory says that's a nonlinear jump. The system builds up so much tension that it just snaps into a totally new, stable configuration. And the connection between belief and personality? Well, that's just a feedback loop where they're constantly shaping and reinforcing each other. And here is the single most important takeaway. When you throw individual facts at a deeply held belief, you're targeting the wrong level. It's like trying to change the design of a skyscraper by swapping out one single brick on the 50th floor. A fact is a micro-level event. The belief is a macro-level structure. That top-down filter is just going to dismiss or reinterpret that little brick to keep the whole building standing. So, of course, that leads to the next big question. If facts don't work, what does? If you can't push from the bottom up, you've got to find a way to shake things up from the top down. Well, according to this theory, real belief change requires a massive, macro-level intervention. We're not talking about small adjustments here. We're talking about something huge, something that rattles the entire structure. Things like a fundamental shift in someone's identity, or changing their entire social group, or a long-term, deep change in their daily environment. You have to change the entire context that the worldview lives in. So, let's put all the pieces together. What does this really mean for how we think about ourselves and the people around us? You can really see the whole journey now, from a single random spark to a massive, stable architecture. It all starts with those random little sparks. Those sparks resonate and get amplified up into a big, coherent worldview, that lambda. Then, that worldview becomes incredibly sticky and it starts acting like a bouncer at a club, deciding which new information gets in and which gets thrown out. And because of that, changing the system isn't about winning a debate. It's about a fundamental shift in identity, community, or the world someone lives in. And this is the thought I really want to leave you with. This isn't just a cool theory for understanding other people. It's a mirror for understanding ourselves. It really forces you to ask, if my own beliefs are this complex, emergent architecture, what were the random sparks that laid my foundation? What chance encounters, what powerful stories built the very structure of my own mind? It's a pretty humbling and incredible question to think about.